Oh, 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 yeah. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Yap Your Ear Off podcast. Um, I've had something on my mind for a while now that I've been wanting to kind of dive into in a video, and that is the evolution of content creators, or I think more appropriately, the de-evolution of content creators, and how content creating isn't what it used to be. I think, in my opinion, you know, quote unquote influencers, content creators aren't what they were 10 years ago. You know, there has been a major shift in content creating, especially over the last kind of 6 years. I think, um, you know, when COVID hit, TikTok kind of took over. Um, Basically everyone's minds and fingertips. Back when COVID hit and we all got kind of sent into isolation, um, TikTok raised the charts immediately, with people being at home with nothing really to do, and TikTok just being on the horizon and starting to kind of find its footing. More people kind of took refuge um, within TikTok, and nothing's been the same since. I've always kind of seen um, views that people have that we've never recovered from COVID, and COVID's, well, not COVID, but more so, that whole kind of time period where we were all in isolation. We've never recovered from it. I think we've changed so much in just those few years, especially our generation, Gen Z. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to things that have changed after isolation is the de-evolution of content creators, and how I think TikTok plays a big part into the change of content creators, and just a lot of the effects that it's had. Um, Starting off with the fact that a lot of the content creators that you find nowadays are just a bit bleak and bland and boring. They're all doing the same thing, you know? They they also seem very materialistic. Most content creators today, or more so a lot of the new ones that rose from that time period where TikTok really started to gain more popularity, a lot of the content creators that came from that rise just seem so black and white, uncreative, to go back to what I said before, bleak and boring and bland. Um, so many of them, so many of the content that they make is just uncreative, and it's just all the kind of same brain rot type of content that is just kind of what's the word? Oh my god, why do I always forget words? Like, actually kill myself. Um just a bit insufferable to watch, the more you consume it. Um and yeah, I think TikTok plays a big part into that, especially because I feel like we're all obviously very aware of what TikTok is. Everybody has it, you know. It's become so ingrained into our society as a whole, It's not even just kind of like Gen Z that are on TikTok. Now you have all age groups on it, millennials. My damn ma has a TikTok account, and she posts videos quite often, and it's it's scary the reach that TikTok has had over the last couple of years, and how it's really seeped into just every kind of corner on planet Earth. Um, and there are obviously some negative and positive sides to TikTok, as I think all things do have. Um, but I wanted to focus more on the negative sides. And one of those sides being that TikTok calls for more kind of trendy content rather than things that are creative and innovative, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is nowadays on TikTok, it, instead of coming across content that is unique and has that kind of, is made by maybe a certain content creator that sticks to making one type of, video. How do I put it? Okay, I feel like I'm wording a lot of this very, very horribly, which I'm sorry about. I am trying to get better at kind of, you know, putting my thoughts into words. But with YouTube, I think something that was special about YouTube, and still is that, every creator kind of has their own oomph. There's something unique about every creator. And there's also just something a bit more kind of personal with a creator on YouTube compared to a creator on TikTok. And what I mean by that is on TikTok, um, the followers don't mean the same thing, or viewers don't mean the same thing as it does on YouTube. TikTok has this feature that everyone uses called the For You page. And the For You page is, well, I mean, I don't even know if I have to explain it, but just in case I have to, it's basically TikTok is offering videos for you that it thinks that you like and playing them automatically. Whereas on YouTube, there's a bit more kind of thought into it where it's not automatically played for you, but you have to pick it yourself. So it feels a bit more kind of personal when you find a content creator that you like on YouTube and watch their videos, because you yourself clicked on the video and made the decision to watch it yourself because it looked interesting to you. Whereas on TikTok, videos will just pop up onto your For You page, and you may follow the creator that made it because you think it's funny, but chances of you coming across that creator again is less likely. If that makes sense. That's why I do think YouTube holds a bit more weight when it comes to viewership and actual subscribers. And to I just realized I went completely off track. To go back to what I was trying to say before, is that I feel like, yeah, like every content creator on YouTube or just other platforms, mainly YouTube, kind of has their own trademark, kind of feel to them, if that makes sense. Whereas on TikTok, you're more likely to find content creators that are doing the same thing as everybody else. Which, I mean, that's not entirely a brand new thing, that only people do on TikTok. I mean, YouTubers have been, God, my nose is running. YouTubers have been following trends for ages now. You look at kind of trends like maybe when YouTubers were all doing try not to laugh challenges, or maybe there was a specific game that everybody was playing, like Five Nights at Freddy's, and that was trending, and everyone kind of hopped on that. But there's something different about a trend on TikTok where it doesn't feel kind of the same way that it feels on YouTube. And I think that goes back to what I said before about how, subscribing to a YouTuber or just watching a YouTuber in general feels more kind of personal because you're making that conscious decision yourself to watch that person. I feel like, that certain YouTuber will kind of take what's special about them and implement it into that trend. For an example, maybe, if you take a look back at something I mentioned, like Five Nights at Freddy's, when that became big and popular back in the early 2010s, and every let's player, or just even YouTubers as a whole, was playing that game. It was still fun to watch multiple YouTubers play that game, because they all brought their own personality to playing that game. If you watch Jacksepticeye play it wouldn't be the same as watching maybe iHas Cupquake play it, because that's completely different identities and people. And that's what kind of made just YouTube videos a bit more special. Is that, yeah, like, you could really bring your personality to the game. Whereas on TikTok, it's more harder to do so. I feel like it's more hard to have an identity. Content creators in general, to have an identity, because a lot of the stuff just feels the same. If that makes sense. And yeah, and also I feel like a lot of content creators now focus more on trying to make more short forms of content rather than making long forms of content. There's a lot of content creators now that just focus on making TikToks, and a lot of those TikToks are, I feel like this is going to be the keywords of this video: bleak, bland, and boring. And it's kind of sad to see that. I sometimes see the stuff that my younger brothers will watch on YouTube Shorts, and I'm just like, I think back to what I was watching, and I'm just like, this is just insufferable to watch. Like, it's kind of sad to kind of think that they don't grow up with the same experience that we did, and their brains are just endlessly rotting, because not only is there a lot of modern day content creators that focus on making short form content only, a lot of that content is just rotting the brain, useless information, just endless nothingness, man. And to kind of quickly jump into YouTube Shorts, it's also kind of sad to see all these other platforms jump in on this kind of short form, endlessly scrolling trend that TikTok has started, like Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. You even see Spotify now, you have like a scrolling feature on Spotify. Netflix, I'm also pretty sure there's like a type of feature where you scroll just through like scenes from a show, and it's made to kind of help you figure out what show you want to watch. And it's very kind of sad to see that a lot of companies are now wanting to do this, because short form content it's kind of horrible to ingest. It's not fun to consume. I mean, I'm not saying anything evolutionary here, but TikTok has become an addiction. And I feel like that's a very kind of cliche thing to say about TikTok, that we're addicted to it. But at the end of the day, it's very much true. We're addicted to TikTok. And like any addiction, there's so many negative effects, Like, there's been so many studies that show that depression and anxiety can form from endlessly scrolling on TikTok. You're more likely to feel the symptoms of depression and anxiety and stress when you're just endlessly scrolling on TikTok. And that is very much true, I believe, in my own, kind of experience. Sometimes I find myself endlessly scrolling on TikTok, and I just feel like shit, because I feel like I've wasted a whole day just scrolling, but you can't stop, It's so hard to stop once you begin. And it's because TikTok, it does such a unfortunately good job at really kind of sucking you in and not letting you go. You also get that little, I feel like, dose of dopamine once you're scrolling past a video. And as I said earlier on in the video, it's become so kind of ingrained in our culture, especially in our generation. Because a lot of us grew up without TikTok, thankfully, and grew up more with YouTube. But I think, especially in the lockdown days, TikTok became such a big part of our culture and being. But not only has TikTok kind of you know, ruined, just become such a big addiction for so many people. I feel like it also has destroyed, other parts of life, such as media consuming. I feel like a lot of people nowadays struggle to do something as simple as watch a movie, watch a TV show, play a game, just anything that isn't on your phone, that isn't endlessly scrolling. A lot of people find it hard to do so without feeling the need to check their phone. I mean, even myself, if I'm watching a show, if I'm watching a movie, if I'm playing a game, it's very hard to not want to pick up my phone every now and then to check. It's kind of, it's like muscle memory now. It's muscle memory to just try and reach for where my phone is and just take a look. And sometimes I find myself just chucking my phone across the room because it gets so annoying and I get so agitated at myself for doing so. Because yeah, I mean, aside from TikTok having side effects like depression, anxiety, it's also completely ruined our attention span. It's so hard to pay attention to something as simple as a 1 hour movie, a 10-minute episode of a show. I mean, no episodes are 10 minutes, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's so hard to pull out attention away and from TikTok and focus it on something long form, like a YouTube video. Um, and it kind of sucks. It really does suck. And I myself have been trying hard lately to stay off TikTok, although I'm pretty sure that my um what's it called? My screen, why do I always forget words? Like, especially when I'm recording, it's so annoying. My screen time is probably like 2.5 hours maybe on TikTok. Um, and I mean, you know, aside from all that negative stuff, there are some positive sides to TikTok. Unfortunately, because I mean, not unfortunately, I just think when you start thinking about the good things on TikTok, it's kind of harder to not want to be on it. Um, but TikTok has kind of, I wouldn't say revolutionized content creating, but it has had some positive aspects in terms of, I think the main thing, exposure. Um, you know, it's way more easier to come across content creators on TikTok now, because it's so easy to find and be exposed to certain people. I think about creators like Vanilla Mace. A lot of, I think, her audience today came from TikTok. She I personally remember finding her when she kind of became a meme when she used to do those blind boxes, and she kept getting the same item that she didn't want from the blind box, and people started making edits, and that led to people finding out about her and watching her. I also think about other creators that I have found on TikTok that I love today: Brittany Broski, Lastitian. Who else? I'm trying to think. Anyone else? Anyone else? No, I think that I mean, those are the ones that come to mind. Oh yeah. Actually no. Oh wait, aren't they problematic? Anyways, um, I really hope I'm making sense here. I really feel like I'm not really in the zone right now, and I'm worried that that's gonna have an effect on my video. But whatever. Let's carry on, shall we? Um, and I mean, not only has TikTok been great for exposure when it comes to content creators, but it's also been great for exposure when it comes to just other things like media itself. I feel like nowadays a lot of people discover music through TikTok. They discover TV shows and movies through TikTok. So that does go to say that there aren't only negative parts to TikTok, but I just think because we've become so addicted to it, there's too many negatives to outweigh the positives. And it does suck because yeah, like, TikTok has many positive sides to it, but it just, it's it's so hard to not get addicted to that app. Um, and it's also just started to have an overall effect. And yeah, sometimes I think content creating is just not the same as it used to be. I feel like so many creators are now so focused, and have like this kind of TikTok mindset, short form content, brain rot, only do what's trending, do the same thing over and over and over again. Once something is trending, they're going to do that same trend 5 billion times. If they make a video and that video does well, they're going to do the exact same video 5 million times because all they want is views and money. And it's like, it's just annoying and it's kind of insufferable. And that's why I kind of appreciate a lot of the modern day content creators that aren't like that. You know, one of the main people that come to mind is Slushy Noobs. They are so unique when it comes to content creating because they don't do what everybody else does. They're a completely different color. Um, and I'd say other content creators that I found through TikTok as well, Brittany Broski, Lastitian, Vanilla Mace, and yeah, a lot of them do have a platform on TikTok and make TikTok videos, but I think something that I value a lot in a content creator is when they make videos purely out of joy for for the game. Um I feel like you don't see a lot of content creators nowadays just turning on their camera and just going with the flow and just being themselves. I think another thing that TikTok has kind of done to us is, kind of taken away a lot of our individualism, if that's the right word. Um, and what I mean by that is, when you have content creators that are only focused on making what's trending and kind of short form content, whether it's lip syncing or whatnot, it's kind of, as I said earlier on, it's kind of hard to form an identity from that. And a lot of people just don't care to form an identity anymore, and they only care about having this kind of influencer mask that they put on. And that's why I say that a lot of content creators on TikTok just all feel the same. They're all bleak, bland, and boring because they're just clones of one another. You know? I don't want to really name any TikTokers, but then again, fortunately, I don't know any by name because I don't care to know their my name. When I see a influencer that kind of gives me that kind of vibe, I tend to just skip it. I don't watch it. So I mean, yeah. So even if I did know content creators that made that type of content, I wouldn't call them out. But yeah, I stay away from them. So and I don't care to know their names. Um. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. That's why I enjoy watching, you know, Brittany Roski and Lastitian, Vanilla Mace, and stuff like that, and still like a lot of the old YouTubers, Jacksepticeye and stuff like that, because yeah, like you can tell that they make videos for fun. They make videos to express creativity. They make videos to inspire. Um, and Slushy Noobs as well. I forgot to include them. Um, yeah, man. I don't know. It just it can suck sometimes thinking about how much TikTok has had such a negative impact on our generation and how it's gonna impact the future generations because we were lucky enough to kind of just be on the brink of that kind of switch on the internet, whereas a lot of the younger generation that grew up with tablets already in their hands, who knows what and who they're going to become, and it's kind of scary to think about. And as I said, it's kind of sad to think about the fact that they are not going to grow up with the same kind of creative and expressive YouTubers that we grew up with, as well as just their attention spans are already being destroyed at such a young age. You don't, and they they're more likely to not maybe watch movies or whatnot and stuff like that, you know. Um, yeah, and it just kind of sucks and it's kind of scary. If I don't plan on having kids, but if I ever have kids, they are not getting a iPad or any form of technology, like a phone, until they're at least the age of like 15, 16. I don't know, until I've seen that they have their own type of character and individuality, and whatnot. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Fuck. But yo, I think another thing I wanted to talk about as well is live streamers. I see, and this honestly is just, this is probably just gonna be a whole segment of, and it's just gonna be me hating on men, but I'm not apologizing because maybe I am low-key misandrist. I don't know about that one, but something else that has been on my mind and has been pretty annoying as well is male live streamers that kind of make a platform from sexualizing women and being an alpha male and stuff like that. It's just annoying to see. Um, you know, I I can think of two content live streamers that I won't obviously name that come to mind that really like shout out at me when I think about this. God, what's up with my nose? And they started off just filming thirst traps after thirst trap. Nothing creative about their videos, nothing innovative, nothing fun. It's just them making videos of them lip syncing to songs and looking all sexy, lifting their shirts up and stuff like that. And then, once they gain a following from just thirst trapping, they start live streaming. And then in their live streams, like, they just sexualize women so much, and they bring on like OnlyFan creators, women, OnlyFan female content creators, and just kind of make a mockery out of them and humiliate them to the viewers, like make them do certain acts. It's just so annoying to see. And I hate when I see a content creator that has built a platform out of from something like that, like thirst trapping, apart from building so there's kind of like two categories that I've talked about so far that I dislike: content creators that create a platform from not being themselves and not expressing their own individuality and creativity, but just making the same old brain rot kind of type of content. And then you have this other category of men that just kind of make a platform from thirst trapping, and then once they gain a following from being sexy, they make videos that are just still bleak, bland, and boring. My God, actually pissed me off. I want to name some of them so bad just out of pettiness, but I mean, there's no point because, like, I don't want to start beef, okay? Not that I'm big enough to start beef, but whatever. It's kind of annoying, and it also like will have because I mean, let's be honest, there will be there's lots of people that watch them, especially boys, and that's just gonna have an impact on them. They're gonna start thinking that kind of stuff is okay. And that's why I like streamers. Like, I mean, I'm not really a stream watcher, but every now and then I'll have my phases where, I mentioned Lastitian. She's a streamer that I thoroughly enjoy because she's funny and she's she's just herself, and she inspires me to be myself. And I'm being serious about that. I had this very rough phase last year, or for a lot of my life. I think I talked about this in a video not too long ago about how I always found it kind of hard to be myself, and a big part to why I've found comfort in being me is because of YouTubers that I've watched. Brittany Broski, Lastitian, they're the main ones that come to mind. And when it comes to myself and trying to be a content creator, obviously I only want to stick to making content that I like. I want to be creative or just expressive or just do what I'm doing now, where I just turn on the camera and be myself and talk about things that I like, And when it comes to following trends, you know, to go back to when I was talking about trends earlier on, I don't necessarily have an issue with content creators making videos based on a trend, because, I mean, I don't have a problem with them doing that when they're kind of implementing their own personality or whatever makes them special into the trends, be building off of the trends, like for me, I've always looked at it in a way where it's like, if I see a trend on YouTube or something like that, or on TikTok, that I actually thoroughly enjoy, then I'll partake. But I would never act on a trend just for the sake of it trending, and because it's like, oh yeah, that's trending, so let me make a video doing that or about that so I'll get views, Because at the end of the day, I never want to see content creating as anything other than just being creative and being innovative and having fun. I never want to look at content creating as view chasing or money making. Yeah, I don't know. That's just some of the things I wanted to get off my chest. I'm very sorry if everything I've been saying is a bit weird and rough. Not weird, but like I feel like my mind and my thoughts weren't properly like formed. I think it's because I'm so tired. My sleep schedule has been horrible lately, y'all. Not okay at all. But yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to get on here and talk about. Yeah. Anyways, with that said, should I call it a day, or should I move on to some other things? I think I'll call it a day. It's getting really late, and I really want to work on fixing my sleep schedule. I've been going to sleep lately at like 2 in the morning, and I wake up at like 11, and then it doesn't help that myself, I go ahead and start doom scrolling on fucking TikTok, and next thing I know, half my day is wasted. It's so annoying. So yeah, I think that about does it for me for this one, y'all. I got out what I wanted to get out, and my challenge for y'all is to put the phone down, put TikTok down, and consume something else. Watch a movie, watch a TV show, play a game, read a book, do a puzzle. Just do anything that doesn't involve your finger moving like this for hours on end. And yeah, I feel like I'm gonna definitely have more to say about this maybe in the near future. I always tend to do videos and I'm like, oh, I should have said this, or oh, I could have said more about that. And I always kind of think like, damn, I shouldn't have done that episode. I should have just waited. But I mean, hey, there's no harm in adding on to something that you've already said. And I don't know. I always feel like when I say things online, they're final. In the sense where it's like, if I talk about a certain topic, I can never go back to that topic once I've put it out there, because I've gotten out all of my thoughts. And once I gain a new thought, it's like, well, it's too late because you already put a video out talking about it. But no, that's not the case. I can always just add a little piece in another episode and go back to what I was talking about, or I could maybe make a second part to that episode. It's not, honestly, it doesn't matter. Even though I want to stick to making content that I want to make, it is very hard to not be worried about what other people think, and make sure that you're catering to other people, if that makes sense. Whatever. Okay, I actually need to go to sleep, y'all. I have a fun episode planned for next week. I don't know if it'll work out, so I have a fun idea. I'll say that. I have a fun idea. I will say it might be Resident Evil themed, because Resident Evil Requiem is coming out in a week. I'm so excited for that game, y'all. I'm so excited. Scared about Leon, though. Okay, that about does it for me. I think I've said that 5 times now. Good night, y'all. Oh, wait, no. And that's all I got. Goodbye.